So the first major reason that we feel so guilty after a sudden breakup is because we've experienced this loss of control in our lives. When you're in a relationship that you have been waiting for many months or even years, and for many of us, we can wait for the special relationship for a really long time. And now you have it, and it can feel like this huge relief and huge weight off your shoulders. Like finally, something that you wanted has happened. Something good has come into our life in a major way. And all of a sudden, we have this sense that things are really going our way, that life is actually working for us. And this isn't to say that maybe you were miserable before the relationship. And trust me, many of my clients are incredibly successful and have so much going on and so much going for them. But for many of us, a relationship is this crowning jewel for everything that we've been working for in our lives. And then when it's gone, and it's gone without a warning, all of that implicit sense of control and stability that we felt since having this relationship and all of the needs that it fulfills suddenly gets ripped away. It's like a rug being pulled out from under you. This is where the guilt can come in, and it's actually pretty clever how our brains work. Guilt is a sort of mediating emotion. So let me explain. If we can pinpoint the thing that caused this event to happen, for this to happen so suddenly, then in theory we can sort of fix it, right? We're all problem solvers. Or at least we can understand enough that gives us some sense of control about what happens next, whether that means control over our own behavior and how we can change it, or control over an aspect of our personality and maybe we can do something about that, or just a clear view of responsibility here. Like, how much am I supposed to take on and how much am I supposed to give to this person? I had a client who was completely blindsided when his partner suddenly decided that they only wanted limited contact moving forward. Now, this was a big change from how their relationship was going so far, and he was convinced that he must have done something absolutely terrible to deserve this treatment, even though when he actually said the reasons out loud and we kind of dug into it, there was nothing inappropriate or really that bad about his behavior, and we couldn't really find anything to kind of pin her reaction on. And a lot of times I can actually see the guilt in people's behavior. They're desperately trying to fix things with the other person, or if they can't reach them, they agonize over every past interaction. They replay conversations again and again, and they have those late night Google sessions searching how to get your ex back or why did they leave suddenly. And all of these actions are attempts to regain some sense of control. This is where something counterintuitive, and I think where the real healing happens, is when people start to realize that they don't actually have control over the other person's decisions, and they can't turn back the clock and get a do-over. That realization can actually be quite freeing. It's like this weight can lift when they think, wait a second, I'm not actually responsible for fixing this because I couldn't have prevented this in the first place. And I definitely can't prevent it now. Hi, I'm Katya Morozova. I'm an attachment coach and certified NARM practitioner. I help people recover from breakups and become secure in their relationships using the wisdom of attachment theory. If that sounds helpful, then definitely please subscribe. And if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, you can book a session with me on my website right up here. Reason number 2, in a college sample, individuals who reported being certain of the reasons for a recent breakup that they experienced had fewer problems adjusting afterward. This was taken from a study by Yildirim and Demir in 2015. So when we experience the opposite, a kind of lackluster explanation or complete silence. It's like someone else is making decisions about our life without our input. And I see this all of the time in my practice. Their partner leaves them suddenly, they're impossible to get a hold of, there's no real answers. And my client feels like they have to walk on eggshells so that they don't rock the boat or push this person further away. And this can be especially true when sometimes you're dealing with a person who has avoidant attachment. And this feeling of like overwhelming helplessness starts to creep in. And you start to wonder what you are supposed to do about this. And this feeling is really uncomfortable, and especially for my clients who are often very successful in their lives and have a lot of control over a lot of moving pieces in their life. It can feel like your autonomy has just been violated, which doesn't just hurt, it fundamentally sort of disrupts your sense of agency in the world. Autonomy is something that we are born with. It is our birthright. The need to feel autonomous has been around for a really long time. And I've noticed that people who grew up in particularly rigid or sometimes even authoritarian environments can struggle even more when their autonomy is violated in relationships. It can take them right back to those earlier experiences where they had no voice and they had no choice. So in these cases, the guilt can become a way to feel like you're doing something, like you have some agency in a situation where you've been given none. If you can blame yourself, then in theory, you could have prevented it, right? Which feels a lot better than admitting that you have zero control over someone else's decision to walk away. Even if this is more of this kind of misguided attempt to restore agency at the cost of feeling really crappy about yourself. And the third reason we feel so guilty is more of this relational one. So if we had a partner who actually pointed blame at our actions, who continuously expressed their dissatisfaction with the things that we did or the things that we said, or who downright said that the reason they left us is our fault. This is an unfortunate kind of breakup, of course, and it is not the most common one, but I thought it was worth mentioning because I do have clients who struggle with this. Well, it can be really difficult to obviously not take that personally, even if their accusations are kind of outlandish and not grounded in reality. I had a client who was repeatedly blocked by his ex, but before being blocked, she would tell him everything was his fault. With that sort of silence and invisible wall between them, he would spend hours ruminating. He would feel so incredibly guilty, and he would go over the events between them, wishing he had taken different actions. Here's the thing, when we're with someone who's harsh in their judgments of us, it's super hard to figure out what might actually be true feedback versus what's completely ridiculous or just their own stuff. If we're anxiously attached or just generally sensitive to criticism, we're way more likely to take in everything, the good, the bad, and even the unfair and the outlandish. To some degree, we're already expecting this person to confirm our insecurities. That's one of the Achilles heels of the anxious attachment style. Our sensitivities make us much more likely to internalize what people say about us. And if we're being really honest, in romantic relationships, a lot of us are overly eager to please anyway. We're overly eager to listen. We want to be open to our partners and give them the benefit of the doubt. We try to see things from their perspective, even when their perspective is totally off. And we imagine that this is what a really loving partner is supposed to do, but sometimes we do this without any sort of boundaries. And this boundary part is the part where you get to decide when enough is enough. Does it really make sense for you to continue to try to please and to suffer at the sacrifice of your own self-worth and your own opinion of yourself? Is it realistic to go on feeling guilty trying to put in 200% when at this point they're probably putting in 0? Does it make sense for you to personalize their harsh and unfair remarks? One of the first shifts that I see when clients start to heal from this particular kind of guilt is that they start to develop a lot more compassion for themselves. The client that kept getting blocked started to make new connections. He started to ask himself, well, maybe her reactions were kind of over the top, or maybe he wasn't so bad after all, go figure, or maybe some of his own reactions to her didn't happen in a vacuum with only him to blame. He actually started to see the sort of ridiculousness in this person's behavior. So while I understand that mediating force that guilt can play after a sudden breakup, or in some cases when really harsh words are spoken towards us, and it's done to kind of regain the control that we once felt over our lives and our relationship, I want you to consider that guilt is not the ultimate healer. It's not the final landing place on your healing journey. And in fact, it can often tear you up inside, because when our guilt paints us as a villain and them as some innocent or even vindicated, bystander, then you know that we're kind of missing the truth somewhere, because real life is not some sort of cliche action movie, where there's a bad guy and a good guy. Real humans are already fundamentally flawed and make a ton of mistakes. That doesn't make them evil and unforgivable because of that. And if guilt is leading you to this sort of black and white picture in your situation, then consider that there's probably some complexity and nuance that you have yet to discover about your situation. I'd love to hear in the comments, what is something that you have been guilting yourself for that you're ready to have a little bit more compassion for? Let me know in the comments. And if you'd like some support on your journey towards healing from guilt and restoring healthy attachment, then I recommend exploring one-on-one coaching. You can book a session or apply for long-term coaching using the link in the description below this video. Did you like this video? If you did, give me a thumbs up and go ahead and subscribe. Next up is my video on how to stop thinking about your dismissive avoidant ex. I think it'll be a really nice complement to this video. You can check that out right up here somewhere. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye.